I get about 12 ounces a mile. So if you're going down, you've got to constantly put it in. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
What is it, 1400 or 1600 coming from the fireball?
Okay.
Well, it's 100 out here. Big record how long it was. What?
Doodly doodly.
Well, I suppose it keeps
Bernie?
Not yet.
Saturday. Good time, Steve.
Watch out for the tunnel. Cats on it.
Owned and operated by the Riverside Great Northern Preservation Society, a non-profit educational historical association of just over 250 members. Locomotive number 82 was built by the Sandley Light Railway Equipment Works of Wisconsin Dells in 1957 in the group of buildings that we left at the other end of the line. Weighs a little over 6,000 pounds, operates at 150 pounds per square inch steam pressure, and works much the same way steam locomotives have worked for nearly 200 years. Burns coal to boil water to make steam. So unless you have questions about the 82, I'm going to give her a spin, and then Conductor Pat will be right back with a word from our sponsor. You don't ask him any more questions, you ask me. He'll make it back for midnight mass.
Okay, I'm going to ride the car with you on your back.
Oh, yeah? Why?
I miss my wife. Besides that, he talks a lot.
He's going to flip them around. Oh, really?
Yep.
My batteries are going dead on the camera. Picture of that?
Yep.
They got a little bit of money stuck in here.
Yes, they do.
Look the way they're planning on doing something. Look at that big rail that's turned there.
kids and we like it. We're big kids.
That thing was made in 1852.
1952.
The 19 or 18?
19.
I thought you said 18.
57.
19. 19.
Kind of like a steam bridge.
Okay, while he goes to couple to the other end of the train, I'm going to give you a little history of the rail line you've traveled on and the RNGN Railway Preservation Society. Started back in the early 1940s when Elmer Sandley was a steam engineer for the CNNW Railway. He was also stationed in Europe at that time in the service toward the end of World War II, and he realized that they had these small gauge railways in place all over in Europe. They transported people from town to town, and this was a normal form of transportation over there. This impressed Elmer. He thought he could bring the idea back to the United States. However, his idea didn't pan out here so well. But a couple of years later, his son Norman, who was also a steam engineer, realized that there was interest in the small gauge trains from amusement parks, zoos, plantations, and the like. So he left the railroad, went into business with his dad. Together they started out by leasing land and building demo track in Janesville, Wisconsin, 1948 at Riverside Park. That's how we got our name, Riverside Great Northern. Now business was doing pretty well for them, and the city also, they had a population boom. People started building their homes around the park. It wasn't too long before those new neighbors started complaining about the noise and smells of the little steam engines. So the city decided not to renew their lease, which forced the Sandleys to relocate. That's when they found this old abandoned rail line. This line that we were just on was built in 1854 by the Milwaukee and La Crosse Railroad. Full-size steam trains used to travel through here, and they used to carry Civil War soldiers on their way to battle. Now, in 1902, the railroad realized that if they were to move their line to the south and west by a couple hundred feet, they could avoid a lot of hills and curves. So that's what they did. The Sandleys got hold of this old right-of-way in 1952 and rebuilt their demonstration track and work buildings in the Dells where we initially started out from. They had made a lot of steam engines, a lot of diesel locomotives, and 100-plus cars of rolling stock, and these trains were sold as sets all over the United States. In '82, Elmer passed away, and his son Norman attempted to take over the business, but economic times back then weren't so good. Things didn't work out for him. Now, the property was abandoned for about 10 years until a group of individuals who grew up here in the Dells, remembering the free train rides that the Sandleys used to give the kids on weekends, took over the debt and turned this into a living museum. Back then, the entire rail line had overgrown with trees and brush, all of which had to be cut down and removed. Then they had to replace about 5,000 railroad ties by hand, which took them about 2 years, was done entirely by volunteers. Now, the society still depends on its volunteers to keep this living museum alive. Many of the folks you see working here are volunteers. They give up weekends, vacations. We've got people from Florida, North Carolina, Pawtucket Ridge, Pennsylvania. They come up here and help operate our little railway in the summertime. Now, everybody remembers that bridge we crossed. That didn't used to be there. That was initially a land bridge or a fill put in by the railroad back in the mid-1800s. Back in May and June of 2004, we had a lot of rain here in the Dells. We had about 28 inches in a 58-day period, then an additional 10 inches in a 2-hour period one night in late June, led to massive flash flooding in the entire area. Now, every morning before we allow passengers on the line, we do track inspection. The individual that came to do track inspection that morning found that our line had been totally washed out at that point. We didn't know what we were going to do. A little while later, the area was declared a federal disaster zone, and FEMA came on in, and with funds from FEMA, many private donations, and a large loan from the bank that we're still working on paying back, we put that bridge in at a cost of about $530,000. Now, the tickets you bought today, that's what keeps us going throughout the year. Pays for the mortgage, the fuel, the coal, the light bill, and the insurance, which is outrageously priced because they look at this as an amusement park ride. It's from private donations from folks like yourselves that we're able to continue doing our maintenance and restoration work, like our brand new turntable. That turntable was put in a little over a year ago. It's valued at $35,000, but because our people did the work, we got it put in for about $5,000. That's the reason we have a donation box not only here at Western Springs, but also back there at Hyde Park Station. Any amount you'd care to donate, even as little as $1 or $2, can go a ways to help us maintain and keep our little railway in operation. Do any of you have any questions?